بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد بن عبد الله النبي الصادق الأمين، وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight we'll continue the discussion about the tafsir of the Ayah 282. And we talked before about many issues addressed in the Ayah, and we stopped at the portion of the Ayah that says أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واستشهدوا شهيدين من رجالكم فإن لم يكونا رجلين فرجل وامرأتان ممن ترضون من الشهداء أن تضل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى. And get two witnesses from among you, male witnesses. If there are no two men as witnesses available, then a man and two women, such as you agree for witnesses, so that one of them, of the two women, if she errs, then the other woman would remind her. So the tafsir, the discussion tonight will be in two sections, today, this week and next week, addressing this issue, the testimony of women. Before we start addressing this issue, we need first of all to establish a frame for the discussion. We can't get into discussing such issue without agreeing on certain frame, certain basis. If we agree on such frame, then we can move forward. But if we cannot agree on such firm, then we cannot move forward. Such frame, we cannot move forward. Thus, we have to agree on the frame so that we proceed. Now, this frame can't be feminism, because feminism cannot be defined. You have Marxist feminism, you have secular feminism, you have what is called Islamic feminism, you have all kinds of feminism. Actually, feminism cannot be defined. As it was said one time, if you try to put a definition for feminism, you will end up with so many definitions equals to the number of feminists. So if you have 1,000 feminists, million feminists, you'll get up with 1,000 definitions or million definitions. So how can feminism be a frame for the discussion if feminism itself can't be defined? The other point, liberalism cannot be the frame for discussion. Why? Because liberalism is very subjective. And what can be considered at certain time as conservative, later on will be considered as liberal, and vice versa. What was considered to some societies as liberal, to the others will be considered conservative, and so on. So liberalism also cannot be used as a frame for discussion. Furthermore, Islam calls for, Islam is a liberal thought, in the sense of that Islam does not want people to be enslaved by others. Al-kullu ibadullah. All of us are servants of God. And if someone at certain time used to go through the experience of the physical slavery, he was actually a true free person, because he thinks inside himself or herself that he can be only servant to God, to Allah. So the point here, in order to discuss this issue, just woman's testimony, we need to agree on a frame, and this frame must be Islam itself. It must be Islamic frame. And following points are needed here. Number one is the authority of the revelation. Revelation, Quran and Sunnah, is the authority in these issues. We are not talking about technology. We are not talking about physics. We are not talking about science. We are not talking about medicine. We are talking about values. We are talking about legal system. We are talking about Sharia. We are talking about laws and regulations. Such things should be based on the revelation, Quran and Sunnah. That's one point. The other point is that the revelation can be probable at times, and it can be conclusive. Even Al-Quran Al-Karim, some ayat have no room for more than one meaning, but some other ayat have room for more than one meaning. So you have ظني الدلالة, the ayat that are probable in the meaning, and you have قطعي الدلالة, the ayat that are conclusive in the meaning. So we need to keep this in mind. And the other point is that in order to understand the text, we need to adopt certain methodology. You have tafsir, and you have the methodology of tafsir, or principles of tafsir. It's not up to us to get into the tafsir the way we want. And actually, I addressed this issue in the introduction to the tafsir. But the tafsir methodology needs method and needs language. And the language here is Arabic. We cannot understand, we cannot offer tafsir of Al-Quran Karim using any other language, because Al-Quran Karim had been described as being a book in Arabic. So we need to understand Al-Quran Karim utilizing Arabic language. Second point, we need to utilize what is called intertextualism. Intertextualism means that to understand one text, at times we need to understand another text. That's why it had been said, Al-Qur'anu yufassiru ba'duhu ba'dan. Quran explains itself. So we need to understand this ayah in the light of another ayah. We need to put all ayat in the same subject together. We cannot just talk about one ayah ignoring the other ayat. And then we need to understand the context of revelation, so that we understand the meaning. And we need the holistic approach before jumping to any conclusion. So these are certain issues we need to keep in mind in order to proceed in discussing this issue, testimony of women. Now, some people take this ayah to claim that Islam viewed woman's mental capacity to be inferior to man's. Why? Because they say, here it is, the ayah tells you 2 men as witnesses, but if they are not available, then you can have 1 man and 2 women. So 2 men equal 1 man. They bring us this equation. Al-Quran Karim didn't say that 2 women equals 1 man. And Al-Quran Karim does not say 2 men equal 1 woman. Men and women, both of them are created by God, 2 different and distinct creatures. So we cannot put equation, 1 man equals 2 women, or 1 woman equals 2 men. The formula doesn't work in this regard. So we cannot, but some people are using this ayah to claim that Islam talked about woman's mentality being inferior to man. Now, so we need to discuss this before we move to the tafsir of the ayah. First of all, the revelation is from God. God is the lawgiver. And God has no bias towards males or females. God created males and females. God has no preference for one over the other. If there is a preference, the preference will be for the taqwa. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, the ayah says. The most honorable of you in the sight of our God is the one who has more taqwa. So it's not the one who is male or the one who is female, the black, the white, the Arab, the non-Arab. It's the one who has the taqwa. That's one point. The other point, actually both males and females are created so that the human life will continue in this earth. So we cannot say that male is superior, and we cannot say that female is superior. There is no superiority, nor there is inferiority in this regard. Both of them live together. Life will not sustain, humankind will not be sustained with this gender only or that gender. Both of them, males and females, have to establish certain relationship. They have to go through union, zawaj, or marriage, in order to maintain the humankind. So how can we say that this gender or this is superior to that or vice versa? So we cannot draw any preference or conclude any preference in this regard. The other point is actually, if you look at ahkam shar'iyya, I'll take just now two examples. One example is child custody. Child custody is granted to whom? To the mother. As long as the child needs the mother, then it's her custody. And once the child reaches to an age in which the child can decide, can make his or her own decision, then they will be given the choice, the option. Do you want to go with your father or do you want to go with your mother? But in general, custody is given to women. And motherhood is the most important career in this world, in this life. We don't look, unfortunately, at motherhood as a career. It's a mission, it's a career. It's not even a job. You know the difference between job and career. Without mothers, there can be no life. And as it had been said, الأم مدرسة إذا أعددتها أعددت شعبا طيب الأعراق. The mother is by herself is a school. If you build the school in the right way, then you are preparing the entire people in the right way. So this is how much important this career is. But unfortunately, nowadays we think of the career as the job that gets woman or the one who is occupying such position monetary compensation. So mothers are not paid for taking care of the house. So some people will think of it, as just household wife. Being household wife is the most important career in this life. Without this, there can be no life. I'm not underestimating other careers like doctors, pharmacists, engineers, teachers, but at the top of all of this, motherhood stands more important than anything else. So this job is given to whom, or this responsibility of child custody is given to whom? To the mothers. Now, on the other side, there can be a discussion when we talk about the political system of Islam, that the head of the state should be a male. But actually, motherhood is more important than being a head of state. So can we say that Islam had preference over women or over men? One side, you'll see that this issue, this mission is designated to women. In another issue, you'll see that it is designated to men. So how can you label such system? I mean, if we try to think about a label should be given to such system, other than being a system from God. So we cannot conclude that Islam has biases towards men or towards women. Second point, I'll bring another example, is the inheritance. I'll bring some quotes, and I actually got these quotes from a paper published in Al-Arqam Institute, and the title of the paper is, let me look at it. Women in Islamic Law, Examining 5 Prevalent Myths, published on July 2019, and published by Dr. Nazir Khan, Tansim Al-Keek, and Safiya Chowdhury. So they brought very interesting points, but let me talk about two quotes they brought. The first quote was brought by Usrula Lindsay. She is defined as an Arabist. She wrote in the New York Times in 2018, feminism can Muslim feminism find a third way? So what did she write about inheritance? Unfortunately, she wrote the following: in Muslim countries, laws governing inheritance are derived from verses in the Qur'an. Men generally receive larger, sometimes double, the shares that women get. Distant male relatives can supersede even wives, sisters, and daughters, leaving women not just verved, but also destitute. She wants to say that in general, she is saying that, not actually in general, men generally receive larger, sometimes double, the shares that women get, and leaving women with nothing. So she is critical of this, and I don't know how do they consider her as an Arabist actually. But the same article brought another quote by Professor Al-Mark Ramzi. He is from the 19th century scholars. He was professor of law at King's College in London, and who studied actually the Islamic inheritance. He said the following: the Muhammadan law, before they used to, when they talk about Islamic law, they used to say Muhammadan law, and we Muslims are called Muhammadans, and Islam is Muhammadanism. Of course, this is wrong, because Islam is not linked to certain personality. Islam is submission of God to God. So it's not Muhammadan, it's not Muhammadanism. The role of Muhammad ﷺ was that he was the messenger of God, but we cannot say that Islam is the Muhammadanism, or that we are Muhammadans. We are Muslims. We don't submit to Muhammad. We don't believe in Muhammad. We believe in God, and we hold the belief that Muhammad is his messenger. But he is not the creator. He is not the sustainer. He is not the sovereign. He is not the absolute. God is the creator, and Muhammad is his messenger. So nevertheless, he says the Muhammadan law of inheritance comprises beyond questions the most refined and elaborate system of rules for the devolution of property that is known to the civilized world, and that its beauty and symmetry are such that it is worth to be studied, not only by lawyers, attorneys, with a view to its practical application, but for its own sake, and by those who have no other subject in view other than their intellectual culture and gratification. Very profound statement, actually, compared to the first statement. Now, we need to realize that the inheritance system in Islam is very sophisticated. It's naive to keep saying that share of woman is 50% of man. That's very naive statement, and it's not built on good understanding for the Islamic for the inheritance system in Islam. I'll bring, in general, we have 4 scenarios. At times, you'll see that female share is 50%. This is limited only to 4 cases. Siblings, if one of their parents dies, then the siblings will receive 2 to 1. But number 2, there are some other cases in which they receive equal shares, both male and female. As an example, if a parents have a son and the son dies, then both parents will receive 1/6, and the remainder will go to the son. And if a person dies and he leaves 2 parents and a son, the parents, each one of them will receive 1/6. So now his mother and his father received equal share. Okay, and the son received the rest. Now the share of the son is different than the share of the father. You cannot say that the share of the son is more than the share of the grandmother or the mother of the deceased, because it's also more than the share of the father. So what rule you want to conclude in this regard? And here we have also the parents are receiving equal shares. Each one of them will receive 1/6. And also, if you have half siblings from mother's side, not from the father's side, they will receive equal share. So if a brother and a sister from the mother's side, their mother dies, they receive equal shares, different than if their father dies. Okay. Now, the third case, there are cases in which woman's share will be more than male's share. So the first case, 50%. The second case, equal. Now, wait a minute. The woman's share is even more than male's share. As an example, if a person dies, if a lady dies and she leaves, her survivors were a husband and 2 daughters, then he will take 1/4, the husband, only 25%. But each daughter will take 1/3. 1/3 is more than 1/4, right? So now the daughter got more than the father. Another case, another scenario, and in some cases, a female will inherit, while if in another given scenario there is a male equal to her in lineage tier cannot inherit. The example will make it clear. If a woman dies, leaving husband, 2 parents, 1 daughter, and 1 granddaughter. So the scenario is this: a lady dies, leaving husband, then the husband will take what? 1/4. 2 parents, 1 daughter, and 1 granddaughter. The granddaughter will receive 1/6 in this case. Now the husband will receive 1/4. The parents, each one of them will receive 1/6. The judge will calculate and give each one the share. But in this case, the granddaughter will receive 1/6. Now, in a similar scenario, if the same lady dies, leaving husband, 2 parents, 1 daughter, and 1 grandson. So the grandson and the granddaughter are in the same tier. So if she leaves 1 granddaughter, the granddaughter will receive 1/6. If she leaves 1 grandson, he will receive nothing. So there are cases in which we find out that women will receive 50%. There are cases in which women will receive equal. There are cases in which women will receive more. And there are other cases it depends where you can find out that a woman will receive a certain share, but if another identical, in the same lineage tier, in another scenario, there is a male, then that he will receive nothing, like the example which you gave. Please, if anyone has a question later on, you can have it in what do you call it, in the chat box. So, Yaqeen, Dr. Nazir Malik's article says the following. Moreover, a careful reading of the full breadth of Islamic inheritance rulings rebuts the notion that the rulings privilege men. There is no preference here. There are cases in which men are taking less, and there are cases in which even men will take nothing, while an equal, in similar case, if the inheritor is woman, she will inherit. So continue saying, why women inherit less than men in 4 situations only. In 4 situations, women inherit less than men. They inherit more than men in 16 situations, and equal to men in 10 situations. Now, some other people, in inheritance, there are so many differences. Some people say actually, which is more, is 20 situations, not 16. So it depends on the interpretation of the scholar, which school of fiqh you are looking at. Okay, so the paper says this: while a woman can inherit less than men in 4 situations, they inherit more than men in 16 situations, and they inherit equal to them in 10 situations. And there are some other situations in which woman will inherit and man will not inherit. Okay, giving similar scenarios. Okay, so now what can we conclude from this? I brought an example of the custody and the head of the state. You cannot conclude that Islam preferred men over women, because the mission of the custody is much more important than any other position, than even the position of the head of the state, honestly speaking. And then we talked about the inheritance, different scenarios, and it tells you that at times women will take less, at times women will take more, at times women will take equal, and at times women will take, but a similar guy in the same tier, identical situation of death, will not take the male. Okay, so how can you label this system? We cannot say that it is feminine system. We cannot say that it is masculine system. There is no preference to this gender over that gender. We just label it as being what? Islam. As being Islam, that it is a system from God who has no biases at all. And in this regard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. In Surah al-Mulk, it says, how could he wouldn't know his own creation? This is a question. How can it be he wouldn't know his creation while وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ? He is the most Sadil, al-Latif, and al-Khabir, the all-aware. So this system is from God, al-Latif al-Khabir, the Sadil, the all-aware. This is Sibghatullah, the system that is defined by Allah, not by human intellect. If the system is defined by human intellect, by people, then yes, we can have a debate. Now, some people are telling us, you know what, Islam gave women, siblings 2-to-1, because man is responsible down the road for establishing family, for paying the dowry, for supporting his wife. But how can we explain the situations in which women take more than men? So we can present all of our explanations or speculations, but at the end of the day, we have to admit that this system is from God. It is Islam with all of its details that has no biases or no preferences to this gender or that gender. Having said that, then we can proceed in the tafsir of the ayah, which I will, inshallah Rabbil Alameen, address next week. So please be with us next week to continue the tafsir of the ayah. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا معصوما واجعل تفرقنا بعده تفرقا مرحوما ولا تدع فينا ولا بيننا شقيا ولا محروما والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.